what happens to the flow of energy in one of the organ meridians when you have had that organ removed from your body. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. Greetings to you today from a rainy day in Auckland. Hopefully it won't interrupt the vlog too much. You might notice I've got some raindrops on my glasses and a bit wet on my jacket. I suppose I could have done the vlog inside, but I really like to get outdoors to do these vlogs. I like to get outdoors to do lots of things. And that's because, well, it's nice to be outside to connect more to the energy of nature. It also often has like nicer lighting and less echo and things like that, which is good for the videos as well, for making vlogs. And maybe to some degree it also carries a little bit of the energy of nature through the video to you when you're watching it. So I think it's just nicer if I can get outdoors. So I've gone outside even in the rain for this one. I have taken refuge in the forest because there's a little bit of shelter from the rain, so I'm not getting quite as wet. And hopefully it's going to be okay for this vlog. Alright, with that out of the way, the topic: what happens to the energy flow through your meridians, so specifically the organ meridians, when you've had one of them removed, when you've had surgery? This is a question that comes up fairly often, particularly when I'm teaching instructor courses, and sometimes in regular classes as well. And so it comes up as people either, well, if they've had an organ removed themselves, that makes them think about it, because if they then encounter practices which are specifically related to different organs and meridians, there's kind of this question of like, well, what happens? Do I still need to do this exercise? Or how does that affect things? Or it also comes up as people, if they're doing an instructor course and they're going quite deep into the practices, and they start to consider how they might apply the practices working with other people, and they, maybe they have friends who've had different surgeries and had organs out and so on, and they feel like, well, how would that apply to them? And then I also saw this come up somewhere just recently, and because it is quite a common question, or it certainly comes up quite a lot when I'm teaching people, I thought, hey, it might be nice to make a bit of a vlog to talk about this a little bit and help people to understand what happens in this situation and what's involved. So we're really fortunate that our bodies have a great ability to adapt, and to somehow, even when there are changes such as removing an organ or other changes that affect our body, if we have injuries of some sort and so on, that our body can adapt, and it finds ways to make things work. So it's very rare when something has, traumatic has happened to our body, that it completely blocks off the energy flow or anything like that. Most often, regardless of what it is that happens to the body finds a way for the energy to get through. Sometimes that can mean the path of the energy diverts, and there's different things that can happen, but it does find a way to adapt and let the energy get through. So specifically in relationship to different organs, so if you're not familiar with the meridian system yet, if you keep delving into the world of Qigong, you will become familiar with it, I'm sure, at some point. Basically, there are two different sets of meridians in Chinese medicine, and therefore also in Qigong. There's one set that has a very strong relationship to the organs, our internal organs. And then there's another set that it functions quite differently, and it relates to other aspects of the tissues of our body and the circulation of energy. But this one set, it's the same set that is primarily used in acupuncture, and it does have a really strong relationship to those physical organs. And so much so that the meridians are named, or largely, there's a couple of ones that relate to some other things, but they're largely named after those organs. So you have a heart meridian, you have a liver meridian, you have a gallbladder meridian, you have a stomach meridian, a spleen meridian, a lung meridian, and so on. And they're so closely connected to the functions of those organs. But they're not only related to those physical organs. They're more than that. They're related to a whole set of functions within your body. And this ties in because our bodies, our lives, our living energy is quite sophisticated. There's quite a lot of different things that interact that in the functioning of our living energy. Our emotions tie in with our energy and with the function of the organs, our posture and so on. And a lot of things happen at a cellular level that all group together in these same, they're related to each other. And so when an organ is physically removed, the pathway, the meridian, the pathway of energy flow that relates to that organ doesn't just cease to exist, because the meridian was never just related to that. It certainly had a strong relationship to the physical structure of that organ, but it was also related to these other things going on in the body to do with posture, emotion, and processes at a cellular level and through the different tissues of the body. So the meridian continues to exist. But now it's missing something that normally would play a big role in its functioning. That's not always a bad thing, by the way. Well, I mean, it's a less than ideal thing, that's for sure. But, you know, we can be extreme about some of our ideas about some of these things. And, you know, it's quite easy to think, you should never remove an organ, you know, because then you're missing part of your body. Sometimes an organ can be in such a bad state and it's so disruptive to what's happening within the rest of the body and the energy flow that actually, with that organ removed, the energy actually flows better through the meridian than it did previously when the organ was there, because it was so disrupted. But overall, it no longer has this part that had a really strong role to play in those functions, the physical structure of that organ. So typically this will mean that there will be a weaker flow of energy through that meridian. And there might be some other things that happen as well. There can be a bit of a deficiency of energy flow through that meridian. In terms of your Qigong practice, it's really helpful to continue to do practices that work on that meridian and that flow and collectively those functions that are related to that organ. Because now you don't have that physical structure, it's really helpful to do other things that are going to really help with that flow of energy. Because basically it needs a little bit of extra help now without that structure there. And so in general, when you have an organ removed, and for most people, the most common ones are gallbladder. That one's pretty common for people to have that removed. Sometimes the spleen. These are the most common ones. In more rare situations, you know, someone might have a kidney removed, or they might have a lung removed, or they might have sections of other organs removed, like a section of their large intestine and so on. When you have one of those removed, if you're doing Qigong practices that relate to the organs, you keep doing them as normal, including the one for that organ. You don't skip it out. If anything, you might even choose to do a bit more of the practices that relate to that organ to give it an extra boost, to help it to continue to flow so that your body, your energy system can continue to fulfill all those functions that were related to that right through your body, not just the ones purely related to the physical structure, but all of those different ones that go right through your body, all the cells that were related to that. So, not a complicated answer really. It's really basically, if you have an organ removed, the meridian continues to function. Its function may be somewhat compromised because it doesn't have the physical structure anymore. But, having said that, it may actually still be better than when the organ was in, if that organ was really in a bad state. So that's not necessarily a bad thing to have had your organ removed, although, you know, if you can avoid it, you always want to. And so yeah, we want to still take care of that within our Qigong practice. So you continue to do those practices that relate to those organs and meridians. They'll continue to give you a benefit even though the organ itself is no longer there. And in fact you might actually do more of some of those practices to help that along, as you know, that then does become more challenging for the body to achieve and fulfill those functions. So hopefully that's useful to a few people. Hopefully, you know, people who are doing Qigong and have had organs removed, it's probably helpful too. Maybe interesting to others who are practicing Qigong. Yeah, if you've liked the vlog, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.